Good afternoon, guys. It's Monday. Hope you guys had a great weekend. We're going to continue on with Chapter 11. So on Thursday and Friday, we were looking at 11.1, which was exploring just your introduction to basic sequences and basic series. Today and throughout the rest of this week, we're going to focus on very specific types of sequences and series. All right, so today, if you guys remember last week, we mentioned we're going to talk about arithmetic sequences and series. Now, remember, arithmetic just means that there is a common difference between each pair of consecutive terms, which just means you're just adding or subtracting the same number each time to get to the next term. All right, so for example, if we look at this first set, all right, so to get from 3 to 2.5, I subtract zero point 0.5. To get from 2.5 to 2, I subtract zero point 0.5. To get from 2 to 1.5, I subtract zero point 0.5, etc., etc., etc. All right, so here we're just subtracting zero point 0.5 each time. So what we're going to also talk about is this common difference. All right, so that common difference is what we are subtracting each time. So in this case, my common difference would be negative zero point 0.5. And if you remember from last week, we were talking about how that common difference also represented the slope, because these arithmetic sequences, if we look at their rules or their equations, they will look like a linear equation because you still have that common difference. All right, so if we kind of go down here and look, the common difference is the difference between successive terms in this arithmetic sequence. And we're going to call that our D. All right, so the D represents our common difference here. All right, so let's look at this first example. It says show that the sequence is arithmetic. To do that, we're going to find the common difference and write out the first four terms. Now, to make this look a little bit easier, I'm going to make this look more like a linear equation. So I'm going to put this piece first. So I'm going to call that 2n, or negative 2n, and then a positive 6. So if you guys remember, we got this form y equals mx plus b here. And remember, that kind of gives us the equation of a line, which again, in arithmetic sequence, will have the equation of a line. So this first piece here, the piece that's with our n or with our x value, that's going to be my slope. All right, so in this case, my common difference, or my slope of this function, or this particular sequence, is negative 2. All right, so that's the first thing it wants us to do, is find the common difference. Well, it's negative 2. It's that piece right there. And then they want us to write out the first four terms. All right, so let's just go through. So let's do a sub 1. All right, if you remember from last week, a sub 1 means that's my first term, which means I'm going to plug in a 1 to my n value. So it's going to be negative 2 times 1 plus 6. Well, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 6 is 4. So there's my first term. Second term, I'm going to plug in a 2. So I've got negative 2 times 2, all that plus 6. So negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 6 is positive 2. All right, so my third term, if you guys remember from last week, trying to find my third term, I'm going to plug in a 3. All right, so this would be negative 2 times 3 plus 6. Well, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. Now, you didn't have to put it in this form, negative 2n plus 6. You could have kept it in the 6 minus 2n form. It doesn't matter. I just wrote it out like that so you guys could see that it's in that same form, y equals mx plus b. All right, so this last part right here is my fourth term, which will be negative 2 times 4 plus 6. Well, negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Negative 8 plus 6 is a negative 2. So if you notice, my common difference was negative 2. So to go from 4 to 2, I subtracted 2. To go from 2 to 0, I subtracted 2. To go from 0 to negative 2, I subtracted 2. So that's just showing you that my common difference is, in fact, negative 2, which again is that piece right there in front. All right? Now, with an arithmetic sequence, again, it has a linear function. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the general formula to find the nth term of an arithmetic sequence, which will be here. All right? Now, if you were to go through and distribute the n, or distribute the d through here to n minus 1 and then simplify, it would still look like an equation for a line. All right, this is just a general term. Now, if you guys remember, a sub n, I remember last week, guys, we were talking about a sub stuff. A sub n, that's going to be your nth term. All right, a sub 1, all right, remember if there's a number there, that means, right there, that means that's my first term. All right, so we're just going to kind of make that little note right there. So that's going to be my first term. All right, and then this n right here represents whatever term number I'm looking for, and then our d right there is going to represent the common difference. All right, so we'll just write that out as well. All right, so that's what each piece means. So when we're going through and solving, depending on what they give you and what you're solving for will determine what pieces you're going to substitute in. All right, so a sub n represents my nth term, a sub 1 is my first term, n represents whatever term number I'm looking for. If I was looking for a sub 10, my n value would be a 10 here, and then d represents my common difference. All right, so that's just the very basic form of what we're going to be looking for. You guys need to make sure you know that equation. All right, so let's look at the first one. It says find the 41st term in the arithmetic sequence. So the key here is they say arithmetic and they say sequence. So that means I'm going to be using that equation we just looked at. This a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times my common difference. All right, so that's the equation I'm going to be looking for. So I'm looking for my 41st term, so that's my n value. So it's going to be a sub 41 equals my first term, which they give me is 11, plus, now n, remember, n represents whatever term you're looking for. So that's my 41st term, so my n value is 41 minus 1 times my common difference. Now I don't know it, but I can find it pretty easily. So how do I get from 11 to 4? I subtract 7. From 4 to negative 3, I subtract 7, etc., etc. So my common difference here is negative 7. All right, so I put a negative 7 here. So again, first term plus my n value is 41 because we're looking for the 41st term, minus 1 times my common difference, which we said was negative 7. All right, so let's go through to simplify. I've got 11. All right, 41 minus 1 is 40. 40 times negative 7 is negative 280. Make sure you multiply here first before you add the 11. All right, and then 11 minus 280 is going to be negative 269. So the 41st term of this sequence, instead of just going through and finding each individual term until you get all the way up to number 41, you can just use this general equation here. So your 41st term would be negative 269. All right? All right, I want you guys to try that next one. So just pause this right here, and then as soon as you guys are ready, we can hit play. All right, so in this case, find the 16th term in the arithmetic sequence. Again, key here, arithmetic sequence. So we know it's arithmetic, so there should be a common difference. All right, and then it's a sequence, so we know it's just a set of numbers. So let's just look here. So let's find my common difference first, make sure we have something here. All right, so to get from 2 to negative 2, I subtract 4. Negative 2 to negative 6, subtract 4, etc., etc. So my common difference here is, in fact, negative 4. All right, so we're looking for my 16th term. So let's just go ahead and write out what my equation is supposed to look like. So it's a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times my common difference. All right, so I'm looking for a sub 16 because it's my 16th term. So a sub 16 equals my first term, which they give me is 2, plus my n value. I'm looking for my 16th term, so my n value is 16 minus 1 times my common difference, which we said was negative 4. All right, so let's go look at this. So a sub 16, let's simplify now. So I got my 2 plus, now 16 times 1 is 15. 15 times negative 4 is negative 60. So we actually just go put this here instead of plus. We'll just say that is minus 60. So again, 16 times 1 is 15. 15 times negative 4 is negative 60. So 2 minus 60 is going to give me a 16th term of negative 58. Cool. All right, so that would be my 16th term. Now, because I've got so many different little pieces in this equation, sometimes they're going to ask for different things. All right, so in these first two examples, we were finding a specific term. All right, in this next example, they give me the 44th term. They tell me it's 229, and they give me my common difference is 8. They want me to find the first term in my arithmetic sequence. So once again, I'm just going to write out what my equation is supposed to be. So a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times my common difference. All right, so in this case, we have to use different pieces. All right, so they give me my 44th term. I'm looking for my first term, which is here. All right, so I don't know what's going to go here. However, they do give me my 44th term is 229, so I want to use that to find my first term. So they give me a sub 44, so you know what? We're going to use a sub 44 equals my first term, don't know it. Going to find it. Plus, now, because I'm using my 44th term, my n value here is going to be 44. And then my common difference is going to be 8. All right, now it looks like I've actually got two variables. However, I can substitute something in here to my 44th term. They tell me my 44th term is 229. So in place of a sub 44, I can substitute in 229 equals a sub 1 plus. All right, so 44 minus 1 is going to be 43. 43 times 8 is 344. All right, so now we just solve for a sub 1 here. So if I subtract the 344 over, I'm going to get my a sub 1 is negative 115. There you go. All right, so we went through and we found my first term. So again, we used my 44th term to find my first term. So that means I was able to substitute 229 in and then solve for my first term. All right? All right, so what I want you guys to try and do, well, never mind. My bad. All right, we're going to look at this next one together. All right, so they want me to actually find the first term here in the arithmetic sequence. However, they don't give me this very similar information they did before. All right, so before they gave me a specific term and then they gave me a common difference. Here they just give me two specific terms. All right, so what I'm going to have to do is use these two terms to help me find my common difference. Then I can use that in one of these terms to find my first term. All right, so the way we're going to do this, all right, they tell me my ninth term is negative 5. All right, now I can actually write that as a coordinate. I can write that as the point 9 comma negative 5. All right, now I can also write the 15th term is 31. I can write that as 15 comma 31. Now, if you guys remember, all right, when we were originally talking about arithmetic and we were talking about last week, we were talking about how my common difference represents my slope, all right, because when we're talking about the equation of a line, all right, so my common difference here is going to represent my slope. So I got to find that. Now, if you guys remember what slope was, remember it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I can use that exact same equation to solve for my common difference, because my common difference is my slope for an arithmetic sequence. So I'm going to use that to solve my common difference. So if you notice, I've got two sets of coordinates. So my ninth term is negative 5 is 9 comma negative 5. My 15th term is 31. That's 15 comma 31. So I'm going to use that to find my common difference. So y2 minus y1, we can go negative 5 minus 31. We can go 31 minus a negative 5. I like to keep from having to change signs, so let's just go negative 5. Whoops. My B. So let's go negative 5 minus 31. Now remember, with slope, you got to make sure you go the same direction. So if I go negative 5 minus 31, I have to do 9 minus 15. All right, now negative 5 minus 31 is going to give me a negative 36 over 9 minus 15 is a negative 6. So negative 36 divided by negative 6 is a positive 6. So my common difference here is 6. So now I can actually use that to find my a sub 1. my first term. Now that I have my common difference, this problem is just like the last one. All right, so I need to use this equation because it's an arithmetic sequence right up there. So that's the equation I'm going to use. A sub n is your first term plus n minus 1 times your common difference. Now, because I need a specific term, I'm going to use one of my terms that they give me. Doesn't matter which one you use. You can use your ninth term, you can use your 15th term. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to use my ninth term because it's there. All right, so I'm going to use a sub 9 to help me find a sub 1 because that's what I'm looking for. Plus, all right, so since I'm using a sub 9, my n value here is 9. And we found out that my common difference is over here, which is 6. All right, now it looks like I've got two variables in here, but I really don't. Remember, my ninth term I know is negative 5. So in place of a sub 9, I can substitute in negative 5 equals a sub 1 plus, all right, 9 minus 1 is 8. 8 times 6 is going to give me 48. All right, if we subtract the 48 over, we get negative 53. There we go. So my first term here is negative 53. Now, once you found that common difference, you also could have just said, okay, well, my ninth term is negative 5. Let me just make sure I subtract 6 each time to get all the way down to negative 53. All right, so the first term would be negative 53, or again, you can just use your equation. But the key here, guys, is you got to know your common difference. And to find your common difference, you can use your slope. Because remember, slope and common difference are the same thing since we're talking about the equation of a line or an arithmetic sequence. All right, y'all try the next one. So pause it right here, and you guys can hit play once you guys have had enough time to work on it. All right, so it says find the first term in the arithmetic sequence for which the 14th term is negative 1. All right, 14th term is negative 1, and my 18th term is negative 9. All right, so I've got to find my first term. So again, I know it's an arithmetic sequence. So it's a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times my common difference. All right, I don't know my a sub 1, so I got to find it. I'm going to have to use one of these two specific terms for my a sub n and my n, and I've got to find my common difference. Now, if you remember from before, I'm just going to pull this down a little bit. All right, if you remember from before, to find my common difference, I can use slope. All right, because I got to find that. That's the first piece of information I can find pretty quickly. All right, so to find that, we're going to use my slope formula. Now remember, so this is 14th term is negative 1, so that's the coordinate 14, comma, negative 1. All right, and then this other piece, my 18th term is negative 9, is the coordinate 18, comma, negative 9. All right, so let's go ahead and go through. So let's just do this time negative 9 minus a negative 1, which would be negative 9 plus 1. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So negative 9 minus a negative 1 over 18 minus 14. So negative 9 plus 1 is going to be a negative 8. Negative 8 over 4. So here, my common difference is negative 2. So now I know my common difference, and now I can substitute that piece in. So I know here we can put a negative 2. Now, once again, to find my first term, I'm going to have to use one of these two terms they gave me. It doesn't matter which one you use. Just pick one of them. All right, I'm just going to use my 14th term. All right, so I'm going to say this is a sub 14 equals a sub 1, which I'm trying to find, plus, now my n value, because I'm using my 14th term, my n value will be 14. Now I know all my pieces. Now once again, it looks like I have two variables. However, I know what my 14th term is. It's negative 1. So I'm going to substitute in negative 1, a sub 1 plus, all right, 14 minus 1 is 13. 13 times negative 2 is actually a negative 26, so I'm going to change that to a negative. So it's going to be negative 26. So now to get my a sub 1 by itself, my first term, I add the 26 over. So I know that my first term then is 25. There you go. So they gave me my 14th term and my 18th term, and I had to use that to first find my common difference using my slope formula, and then I plug that in as well as one of my terms to solve for my first term. So that's where I got my first term to be 25. All right? So that's really the gist of everything with the arithmetic sequences. So now let's take a look at my arithmetic series. So our sequence is just listing my numbers out. The series is actually finding the sum of those specific terms. All right? So that's basically, if you were to go through and add up all the terms of that particular sequence, that would give you the arithmetic series. All right? Now, instead of having, say you had to add up the first 45 numbers of a particular sequence, instead of going through this plus this plus this plus this plus all the way up to the 45th term, you can use this particular equation here. Now S just represents the sum, all right, the sum of the first n terms. N still represents the number of terms here, equals n over 2 times. Now this a sub 1 here represents your first term, and this a sub n here represents your last term, or your, I'll call it your nth term. All right, and that's important to know because some of these we're actually going to have to find my fifth term, or my last term, I should say. All right, and some of them we have to figure out how many terms there actually are based on that last term. All right, so let's go through and let's look at this first example. All right, so it says find the sum of the first 32 terms. All right, so that's what we're going to do. All right, so I know it's an arithmetic series. So once again, arithmetic and series is going to tell me to come back and use this particular equation. All right, so I know I'm going to be using S sub n equals n over 2 times my first term plus my last term. All right, now, because I'm looking for the sum of the first 32 terms, that means my n value is 32. So I'm looking for the sum of my 32 terms equals, since it's 32 terms, my n value is 32 over 2 times my first term they give me is negative 12 plus, now I don't know my 32nd term. Now most of the time they're going to tell you, hey, this is your 32nd term, all right, but not always. All right, so just to make sure, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find my 32nd term. All right, so just to come over here, let's go ahead and let me write this. It's a lot easier just to type it out. All right, so let's find the 32nd term. All right, so to find my 32nd term, because it's an arithmetic series, to find my 32nd term, I can use my arithmetic sequence. My 32nd term, a sub 32, equals my first term, which was negative 12, plus, we're going to use the a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times common difference. My n value for my 32nd term is 32 minus 1 times my common difference here. To go from negative 12 to negative 6, I add 6, I add 6, I add 6. So my common difference here is 6. So my 32nd term, 32 minus 1 is 33. 33 times 6. Excuse me. Actually, 32 minus 1 is 31. 31 times 6 is going to be 186. So I got negative 12 plus 186. All right, when I add those together, I get my 32nd term to be 174, which they already told me. I was just verifying that the 32nd term is, in fact, 174. All right, so that means, so this a sub n right here, because I'm looking for the sum of the first 32 terms, it's a sub 32. My 32nd term is 174. That's a 7. All right. So now we just go through and simplify. 32 over 2 is 16 times negative 12 plus 174 is 162. So the sum of my first 32 terms, 16 times 162, is 2,592. There you go. So the sum of my first 32 terms is going to be 2,592. All right. So you guys go ahead and try the second one. So pause it right here. Take a couple seconds to go through this one. Once you guys are done, you guys can hit play and we'll continue on. All right, so find the sum of the first 12 terms. Again, they tell me it's an arithmetic series. So that's important to know what kind of series it is. So because it's arithmetic, we're going to use this equation right here. All right, so it's n over 2 times my first term plus my last term, which in this case will be my 12th term. All right, so we're going to substitute pieces in. So the sum of the 12 terms is going to equal my n value is 12 because we're looking for my 12 terms over 2 times my first term is 100 plus my last term. Now we can go ahead and assume we can go through this whole process again of finding the 12th term. All right, but let's just go and assume this is my 12th term. If we went through and verified, we would get that it is in fact my 12th term. All right, so let's just go and plug it in. So we go through and simplify. 12 over 2 is 6 times 100 plus 34 is 134. So the sum of my first 12 terms in this particular arithmetic series is 6 times 134, which is in fact 804. So that's the same number you should get if you took and plugged in your calculator. 100 plus 94 plus 88 plus 82 plus blah, 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 all the way down to 34. If you add all those up, you would get 804 as your final answer. All right? Now, let's look at this last one real quick, and then we be done. Okay? All right, so find the sum. Now, they give me my first three numbers, but then if you notice at the end, they give me what looks more like an equation, all right, which this represents my nth term. So in this case, I'm not going to actually end up with an actual value. I'm looking for the sum of the first n terms. So in this case, what this means is my last term is 4n minus 5, so I'm actually looking for the sum of the first n terms. So they don't tell me what my n value is, they just want me to use n as my n value. All right, so the sum of the first n terms is going to equal n over 2, I'll just write this out, times my first term plus my last term. All right, so again, because they don't give me a specific term, this 4n minus 5 represents my nth term, so that means my n is going to have an n in it. So n over 2 times, now my first term I do know is negative 1, plus my last term they tell me is 4n minus 5. All right, so here we're just going to simplify. In this particular problem, we're not going to have a final single number solution. We're actually going to have what looks more like an equation. All right, so if we go through and we simplify, so let's simplify my parentheses first. So negative 1 and negative 5 is negative 6. So this is going to be 4n minus 6. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to take this piece here and I want to distribute it through to both pieces. All right, so n over 2 times 4n is going to give me 4n squared over 2 minus, if I distribute my n over 2 to the negative 6, it's going to be negative 6n over 2. All right, so when I do that, I can simplify. 4 divided by 2 is going to be 2, so this is going to be 2n squared minus 3n, and that is going to be the sum of my first n terms. So again, in this particular case, I didn't have a particular value that I was going to get, but I was looking for the sum of the first n terms, which in this case was just going to be 2n squared minus 3n. All right, now this is your homework for tonight. All right, page 849. These are all even, so again, those are not going to be in your book. However, I have posted the answers that have been worked out from these particular problems on the website, so you guys can go there and check those out. And then tomorrow, let's get a little bit more practice with 11.1 and 11.2. We'll wrap up the rest of this week with 11.3 and start looking at reviewing. So hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon, and we will talk to you guys later.